readers, Mrs. Malstadt here. I'm so glad you joined me today. Sometimes, you know how when you're reading, you might come across a phrase or some words that the author uses, and you might think to yourself, I think I kind of get what the author means by that, but maybe you're not all the way sure. Today I want to teach you a strategy for figuring out figurative phrases that authors might use in their writing. Sometimes those phrases paint a very vivid picture in our mind, and we can picture it like a movie in our mind, but we might not always exactly know what they mean. So I'm going to teach you today to use this strategy to think. Is the author using a phrase in a figurative way? So one example of a phrase that we might hear is a phrase, when pigs fly. So the phrase, when pigs fly, means that it's probably not going to ever happen. So for example, if you said, Dad, when am I going to get to stop cleaning my room? And they might reply with, when pigs fly. That means probably never. Because can pigs actually fly? No. Are pigs going to grow wings and fly? It's highly unlikely. So the interesting thing is, there are phrases around the world like that people use that mean the same thing. It means probably never. So for example, in Spain, they say, when frogs grow hair. And in Nigeria, they say, when chickens have teeth. Can you picture that in your mind? That's something very unlikely to happen. So I want to teach you the strategy. So the first thing that you want to think is create a movie in your mind. So let's go back to that phrase about when pigs fly. What do you picture in your mind? I picture a pig with wings soaring through the air. Okay, so then our next step is, what do you think the author is trying to say? Do you think that the author is literally telling us that pigs will fly and then it could happen? Probably not. They're using figurative language. So first we want to think, what does each word mean separately? Okay, so when means a time. Pigs is our thing, the focus, the noun. And then when they fly, that's our action or verb. So when pigs fly, that's talking about pigs flying in the air. So then we have to think, well, what could the phrase mean? Well, when I think about pigs flying, I think that that's a very unlikely and fantastical thing to happen. So it could possibly mean that it would never happen. And so then the last thing we have to think, does it fit? We have to think about the context. So if I think about the context behind my question, when will I have to stop cleaning my room? Well, I know that my dad is always going to have that expectation. So I think it does fit to say, well, never. Because in that context, that makes sense. So I want to show you another book. This is a book called Dictionary for a Better World, and it's got poems and quotes from A to Z, and they always have a really inspiring message. So the poem I want to share with you today is called Belonging. So in this poem, Belonging, there is a girl that's just coming into a new school. And she's feeling a little bit nervous. So if you've ever been new before, you might know how she feels. So as I read this poem, I want you to think about how she might be feeling being new, and then also see if you can spy some words or some phrases that are figurative. They create that picture in your mind, but they don't mean literally what they say. So the poem says, when I walk into the room, all I want is to fit in. Can new friendships bloom? How do I begin? All I want is to fit in with this fresh group of friends. I know it can't begin until someone bends. Dear fresh group of friends, how about you be you and I'll be me? When someone bends, that's the key. Yes, you be you and I'll be me. and new friendships will bloom. I turn the key, I walk into the room. So readers, I'm thinking about this person about to walk into a room with people that they don't know. And so they're wondering, they're saying, all I want is to fit in. And they want to make friends. And they're saying, you be you and I'll be me. Let's be ourselves and let's accept each other for who we are. So now I'm thinking about some phrases that the author uses that creates a picture in our mind, but it has more of a figurative meaning. So it says, can new friendships bloom? So let's think about that phrase. Let's think about the word bloom. What do you picture in your mind when you hear the word bloom? I always think about flowers. So if she's saying friendships bloom, well, I think about another word or a synonym for bloom, and it reminds me of growing. So they don't literally mean that the friendships are blooming like flowers. They're not going to grow petals, but they're taking that word figuratively to mean that they're going to bloom or blossom or grow. And so if a friendship blooms, let's think about what would make sense in that context. Well, if she's new, it means that she wants to make new friends and have her friendships grow strong. Another phrase that the author uses is they say, all I want is to fit in. So you probably have an idea of what that means, to fit in. But literally, what do you picture in your mind? What does it literally mean for something to fit inside something else? So when I think about fitting, one thing that I think about are puzzle pieces fitting together. So the author doesn't literally mean that she's going to fit in that space. What does it mean in context when you think about fitting in with a group of people? So a synonym for fit in, another word that means the same thing as fitting in that context, might mean feeling accepted. So what the author is really saying, let's see if that would fit. All I want to do is to be accepted with this fresh group of friends. That would make sense. And then another one yet says, I know it can't begin until someone bends. Okay, so they're saying somebody's bending. So what do you picture in your mind literally, somebody bending? So when I make a movie of somebody bending in my mind, I think about literally somebody bending over. Some phrase that I've heard sometimes is to be flexible, which again, literally means that you can bend in many ways. But let's think about it in context and put those pieces together. I know it can't begin until someone bends. So maybe they don't literally mean bending. That wouldn't make sense in this context. In this context, they're saying until someone bends, maybe somebody has to make the first move and say hello, and maybe ask her name, or maybe be willing to make a new friend. So being flexible in your friendships. So readers, do you see how we can think about the phrases in a figurative way? Create that movie in your mind, and then think, what do you think the author is really trying to say? You can think about the words separately and what the phrase could mean together. And then it's really important to think, does it fit? Think about the context of the story or the poem. So readers, as you go off to your independent reading today, I invite you to try this strategy. Keep an eye out for some figurative language that you might come across that might sound tricky at first. Think about if you can picture it in your mind and then see what would make sense, and think, what does the author really want us to get out of that? I invite you to give that a try. Happy reading!